Quietest ones in the room with your host Trey. I gotta say it, just the fact that you've clicked onto this video and you are listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. Let's talk about it. Money. The hot topic pretty much for everyone. Money. Money. So I read an article recently that specified 7 out of 10 people are experiencing financial anxiety. And so I'm just going to read a little bit from the article and I'm going to talk about my perspective on it. So the article goes on to say Americans are feeling increasingly uneasy about their financial future. Nearly 7 in 10 say financial uncertainty has led them to feelings of anxiety and depression, according to a recent survey from Northwest Mutual. I'll stop there. So essentially what happens is from a lot of these major financial resources, whether we're talking about Yahoo Finance, CNBC, so on, you just pick one. CNN Money, Fox News Money, Bloomberg, whatever you want to talk about. There's a tendency for them to come out with these articles and these research data sets that are clearly common sense. It's obvious that, I think the number's actually low when they say 7 out of 10. I'd say 90% of people experience financial anxiety. And it's like, if they took money to pay someone to write this article or use this therapist, they could have just asked me. They could have said, Trey, what do you think regarding money in America? And do you think that most people in this country are experiencing financial anxiety? And I would say, clearly they are. Every time someone goes to the gas pump, every time someone has to pay the rent, every time someone has to pay the mortgage, every time somebody has to pay for childcare, $2,100 for their infant, I can imagine, obviously they're experiencing financial anxiety. People generally in this country don't have enough money. That if something catastrophic happened with their health, that they'd be able to survive more than a month. Most people do not have $1,000 in savings. Most people don't have reliable transportation. Most people don't have proper health care. So of course people are experiencing financial anxiety. And the one thing that I continue to get from these articles that I just want to point out is that the survey was done by Northwest Mutual. And then you go through this article and you see certain resources and outlets that you can use to ensure that you don't experience financial anxiety, such as a therapist, such as some program that you need to pay for, so on and so on, such as just paying for the resources of this news publication to get information on how you can budget and save and get a new job, all these different opportunities just for you to release your hands out to them and pay people money to do something that is clearly common sense that you can do. The world has changed. If it comes to a budget, you can literally go on ChatGPT and ChatGPT will provide you with the best budget for your situation. It will work with you on the numbers that you provided. So you no longer even need to use resources like this. And to think that someone would actually be paying a therapist to sit down and talk about their financial anxiety, I can't even fathom that. If you're listening to this, I'm not judging. Maybe you're in a situation where you go to a therapist and you need to discuss your depression and anxiety surrounding finances. I don't see how that makes any sense, but I don't think it makes any sense. I'm just going to flat out say it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Save your money and your time and Go on ChatGPT or Grok or Microsoft Copilot, whatever you want to do, Meta, and simply say, hey, this is what I'm working with. Help me budget. Build out a Google Excel spreadsheet and start saving and budgeting yourself. You do not need to pay anyone to help you with that, or mentally work with you through the anxiety and depression and money. Now, it's different if you come from a background of family trauma and you want to talk about all that, sure, but money? You have no money, but you're going to sit down with the therapist. So how in the world does the therapist know? Because the headline of this article actually says 7 in 10 Americans are anxious about money and earning more won't necessarily help, says therapist. That's common sense. But why is anybody paying a therapist to discuss this? When it's simply a matter of that, well, they say, and earning more won't necessarily help. Necessarily is tricky language. Obviously, the people who are in front of the therapist are clearly stating that more money would help them. So you don't get to toe the line and say, oh, won't necessarily help. Yes, it will help people if they have enough money for health care. Matter of fact, I'll say it this way. Anxiety and depression revolving around finances would decrease if people had health care that was free or affordable, if people had affordable housing, if the interest rates on car loans was more affordable and the prices of the vehicles were lower, if food was more affordable, if people had access to better food at an affordable price, yeah, a lot of this wouldn't even be an issue. But of course, 7 out of 10, they're saying, I think it's more like 90% of people are experiencing financial anxiety. Even if you're middle class right now, you know that all that money that you've saved, especially if you're in the upper middle class, that you've saved up, you are one health scare away from serious financial issues. If you're not dealing with, let's say, $10 to $25 million in this country, yes, you're experiencing financial anxiety. But I want to say this. I think we put too much emphasis on money, and that's part of the problem too. We do not spend enough time valuing people outside of money. There are too many people I know that I can no longer deal with. I don't know about you, but because they solely focus on connecting with people that benefit them financially, I can't deal with those types of people. Maybe you can. Maybe you're strong enough to do that, but I can't do that. And what I found is most people only care to deal with you if you have money, if they believe you will help make them money. Just look at how people treat homeless individuals. One day, if you're walking down the street and you see someone homeless and you have a conversation with them, just listen to how they tell you people treat them like they're invisible. And people treat them like they're invisible because of their anxiety regarding money. Well, oh, if I deal with this person, it's some type of shame on me. And obviously I can't get anything out of this person. So I'm going to completely ignore their existence. People do it all the time. So if we actually cared about people like one should, like one you would hope to think, like how we teach our kids to treat people, then more people would have less anxiety regarding their finances. They wouldn't feel so judged and that they have to compete with what they see on Instagram and TikTok and some show they've seen where somebody's driving a G-Wagon and living on 600 acres. Nobody, it's rare to do that. But the comparisons that people make with themselves and others is also part of the problem. Not just the fact that, oh, if you budget and that's not just the sole solution to the problem. But anyhow, I wanted to share that with you. They could have clearly paid me to provide my anecdotal research that I've done in my personal life on this particular matter. So what a waste. Anyhow, please share your thoughts in the comment section. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate each and every one of you who continue to engage with this content. And as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, until next time.